The NFL is a dramatic business. The coaches, players, owners, and perhaps most of all, the fans are insanely invested in the games. So there is a lot of hyperbole that gets tossed around on a week-to-week basis. So-and-so is the best running back in the league. This coach knows absolutely nothing. You get the idea. It is football, and football fans are crazy, so we tend to exaggerate a little bit when emotions run high. But all that being said, we have stumbled upon what is unquestionably the single worst rule in all of football, perhaps even in all of sports. Now, depending on your fandom, you might be thinking of a couple of different rules. Maybe you're a Saints fan, and you hate the way that pass interference is, or more so isn't, called down the stretch of games. Or you're an old school Raiders fan, and you think the tuck rule should be shot into the sun. Or a Cowboys fan who just wants to know what a catch is. But if you ask me, there's one rule that trumps all of these admittedly terrible rules. And that, my friend, is the insanity that takes place when an offensive player fumbles the ball through the back of the opposing end zone. Once again, we've seen this abomination of a rule intrude on what was otherwise a great football game between the Cleveland Browns and the Kansas City Chiefs in their tightly contested AFC divisional round matchup. After going down early, Cleveland was finally putting together a big-time drive towards the end of the first half and looked primed to cut the lead. Browns quarterback Baker Mayfield completed a pass downfield to Rashard Higgins, who broke up field and made a mad dash towards the end zone. Higgins was just inches away from scoring and putting Cleveland squarely back into contention against a heavily favored Chiefs team when Chief safety Daniel Sorensen came in, squared him up, and delivered a massive hit that caused Higgins to fumble the ball through the end zone before he crossed the goal line. The play did go to video replay, giving Browns fans a sliver of hope. But once the officials confirmed the call on the field, the devastation was final. Instead of a Cleveland touchdown drawing the score to 16-9 and possibly 16-10, pending the extra point, the Chiefs assumed possession on their own 20-yard line. To call that backbreaking is the understatement of the century. After getting dominated early on, the Browns finally had some momentum going, and all of a sudden, it just vanished. And to make matters worse, after seeing how the rest of the game played out, that would-be touchdown went on to be the difference in the game. Simply brutal. Now, moving past the very legitimate question around the legality of a hit that looked very much like a helmet-to-helmet tackle, I really think that this is by far the worst rule in all of football. I mean, in what world does it even make a lick of sense? I understand that there should perhaps be some sort of consequence for fumbling the ball out of the end zone, but why does the possession change? Couldn't the refs just take the ball and spot it back at the 20 and force the offense to pick things up from there? I think that moving the spot 20 yards back is more than enough. How does an out-of-bounds fumble, which usually just results in the ball being spotted at the yard line where the ball went out, result in a change of possession when it occurs in the end zone? It's just so frustrating that the NFL continues to let this rule impact and sometimes ruin big games. Think about it. We've seen this bad boy pop up in some pretty pivotal moments, and often it results in a massive momentum swing. If you ask me, the biggest problem with the rule is that not only is it born out of zero logic in accordance to the rest of the NFL's rulebook, but it also sort of penalizes effort. It puts the ball carrier in a position where he has to think twice before making a stab at the end zone, when every inch of football's DNA suggests otherwise. It is an inherently violent hustle sport. Players have to make plays. This is how they win games for their team, and how they earn a living for themselves and their families. I mean, it literally is forcing NFL coaches to coach the effort out of their players. Think about how ridiculous that is. Just listen to Browns head coach Kevin Stefanski's comments after the game. I will never ever doubt Rashard Higgins' effort or our guys' effort. Our rule there is not to reach the ball out when it's first and goal, and he knows that. Again, I appreciate his effort. He battled like he always does. Right. That's exactly what we want. Fighting the urge to make an effort and make a play. Great. Now let's get one thing straight here. I'm not suggesting that all of a sudden fumbles are void and null, or that we should really be doing anything to make the game any easier for the offenses, which are already very much coddled by the NFL rulebook. But the fact of the matter is this: there is a reasonable chance that if the ball carrier fumbles, that the ball bounces loose into the end zone, and at that point, it's fair game. It can easily be recovered by the defense, and if it is, then so be it. The defense should get the ball because they recovered it. On the other hand, if it is not recovered before bouncing out of play, then why should the rule play out any differently than it does when the ball goes out of bounds at any other part of the field? From 1 yard line to 1 yard line, the rule is called one way. But once the end zone gets involved, we start making arbitrary, unfair, game-altering rules that can completely ruin a game. Think back to a game between the New York Jets and the New England Patriots a few years back in 2017. You know, back when both franchises were actually relevant. Obviously, one more so than the other. But I digress. Buckle up, because this is a weird one. Actually, it was a weird season to begin with, too. Ahead of the season, everyone and their mother was down on the Jets. They were supposed to suck big time. But somehow, someway, they ended up entering this game tied in the standings with New England, meaning that a win would catapult them into sole possession of first place in the AFC East. And unlike the current Jets, this Jets team actually rose to the occasion and played well, narrowly losing a one-score game 24-17. Let's revisit this particularly egregious iteration of the end zone fumble rule. With the Jets trailing by a score of 24-14 in the fourth quarter, they got the ball back and started moving down the field. After a long day offensively, like the Browns, they finally had some more momentum rolling. But all that came to a screeching halt when New York's tight end Austin Jenkins caught a short flare route at the 5 yard line and turned toward the end zone. Things looked oh so promising for Jenkins, as well as the Jets. But then, all of a sudden, things turned south, as the refs did what the refs do by enforcing the single dumbest rule in all of sports.
A fumble into the end zone results in a touchback. It'll be New England's ball, first down at the 20-yard line.
What a turn of events here.
We've seen this play happen time and time again. Here is another backbreaking one that took place between two other rival franchises, the Chicago Bears and Green Bay Packers. Chicago running back Benny Cunningham caught a short pass in the second quarter of his team's matchup with the Packers and rumbled 23 yards downfield with the ball, finishing the play off with an epic headfirst dive towards the pylon. The referees subsequently ruled the running back out of bounds at the 2 yard line. Fox quickly decided to challenge, thinking that Cunningham had crossed the plane at the goal line and thus made it to the end zone, which in and of itself was a terrible decision. I mean, a touchdown was just a few feet away. But nevertheless, the referees reviewed it and noticed that the ball actually came loose during the dive, and next thing you knew, it was Packers' ball.
Lost control of the football and the ball hit the pylon. Therefore, he did not step out of bounds. It is a touchback.
Never mind the heinous challenge from John Fox that served as the catalyst for this horrendous rule penalizing the Bears. Yet another good game completely uprooted by this rule.
He lost control when the ball hit the pylon. Is that a touchback?
If the ball is loose prior to touching the pylon and then it touches the pylon while loose, we have a touchback.
Simply put, it needs to stop. I know that there are a few schools of thought out there as to what to do with it, but to me, I say we keep it simple. If a player fumbles the ball out of the opposing end zone, the team gets a 1st and 10 from their opponent's 20-yard line. The caveat being if the team were in an and-goal situation. Then they would keep the down, so not to encourage teams and players trying to take advantage of the rule from a fresh set of downs. Is it perfect? No, probably not. But is it a hell of a lot better than a few inches making that big of a dent in the outcome of a game? Yeah, you better believe it. But hey, what about you? How do you think the NFL should change this horrible rule to make it better? Let us know in the comment section below. If you like this video and learned a thing or two, clicking the like button helps out a ton. And hey, we appreciate it. If this is your first time coming around to TPS though, subscribing is a great idea because we put out videos like this every single day. But as always, thanks for watching and we'll see you guys next time.